know how the Nexus 1000V works together with UCS. There is an excellent white paper about this in the Cisco support site. How to configure the Nexus 1000V in the UCS system. Know what they are doing there. Know exactly how that should be, because what they can ask you in the lab is to configure an optimized connection of the Nexus 1000V for running inside the UCS system. Actually, let's go to virtual networking. White papers. And then there is a white paper for there. Best practices in deploying Nexus 1000V on UCS B and C series. Know what they're telling you in this white paper. So they're doing, actually this is the best requirement. So configure 2 times 10 gig. Do not configure dynamic VNIC policy. Send all VLANs. Enable CDP. Use a QoS policy to trust the host in terms of marking. Do not enable failover. Make sure that the control traffic is sent to a single fabric. I'll show you how to do that. Configure span entry port type edge trunk on the interfaces towards the UCS. So all kinds of these things, make sure what they're doing here. And they will tell you exactly how to do that through the use of examples with both the UCS and the Nexus 1000V. So this is an excellent white paper in configuring that. But other things to take care of when talking about the UCS or when talking about the Nexus 1000V is the following. Those are port channels. Pay attention to how port channels should be configured when connecting to a UCS system. Do we have to deal with uplink port profiles mapped to different VNICs? Not really. But what you need to be careful about is this. If I have my port channel configuration, so let's see this. We have our fabric interconnects, right? We have our blade. And that blade is running 2 connections to our fabric interconnects. That blade is running the Nexus 1000V. So I want to port channel these links together, which I can. I can use, in the Nexus 1000V, I can use a process called MAC pinning. That MAC pinning is going to port channel these together and pin traffic over and over again. Each VM is going to be pinned to another link. So I'm going to use both my Fabric A and my Fabric B link because I cannot do LACP, right, in UCS. I cannot do that. I can only do MAC pinning in this case to do the port channeling. Now what you need to be aware of is that my fabric interconnect can do local switching, right? So that will probably be there. Same as for this port channeling, or if it's not, be sure to put that port channeling on there, otherwise you will create a loop. If I have 2 uplinks in the same port profile on the Nexus 1000V, without port channeling, I'm going to block traffic. So I need to port channel these together and in the correct way, which is the MAC pinning mode. The white paper will tell you that as well. So the white paper will tell you that you need to do that MAC pinning. Channel group auto mode on MAC pinning. That is the best practice to run uplinks to a UCS system. Now there is one thing to be specifically taken care of, and that is local switching. If I run multiple blades here, which I do, right? Port channel this together. What if I have Nexus 1000V control traffic either following this link or following that link? it needs to go out to the network and be processed there before it reaches each other. So what they tell you here in this white paper is to make sure, where does it say that? To make sure that you make use of the local switching of the fabric interconnects, because everything that does not have to go to the network and can be handled on the fabric interconnect is beneficial for the bandwidth, right? So how can we do that? If I have two fabric interconnects and a couple of blades connected behind there, all with two links. All three are port channeled with that MAC pinning command. What I want to make sure of is that my management traffic is all going through fabric interconnect A. That's what I want to make sure of. So things like control traffic, things like vMotion traffic, because everything that, especially vMotion, everything that's not going to the network and can be switched locally on the fabric interconnect, that's beneficial, right? That's even the best practice according to the white paper. So what is this doing? Technically, this is not a port channel. It is just a pin group. I pin traffic to the left or I pin traffic to the right. So internally, the Nexus 1000V creates two groups called pinning 0 and pinning 1. So this link is going to be pin 0 and this link is going to be pin 1. What I can do on my virtual Ethernet interfaces or on the profiles in the Nexus 1000V is I can configure that pinning. So if I tell my layer 2 VLAN using for Nexus 1000V or my layer 3 control port profile, if I want to make sure that all that traffic gets treated on the fabric interconnect, what I need to do then is configure pinning ID 0 on that particular port profile. Getting me in this? So I configure my port profile for that pinning number. So go into your vMotion port profile or on your layer 3 control traffic port profile and configure which link it should use in the port channel, and that's what I do with pinning. So I can statically pin the traffic to a certain member of that port channel. That is what I do with the pinning ID command. So link 0 is going left, link 1 is going right. Make sure that your network configuration is correct. So verify the configuration on Nexus 1000V. Am I using that MAC pinning command under the uplinks? Do I see the correct port profiles? Am I making use of the fabric interconnect? So am I making use of the correct pinning numbers like the white paper is telling me? So be sure to check this white paper. Read the white paper very, very well because it has very intelligent information and you might get the question to make sure that the white paper matches your Nexus 1000V implementation. And yes, you will be good to go if your network configuration is correct. Make sure that the port profiles are matching your network, but it will not go in depth on the Nexus 1000V because ultimately it's only 10 points. So what can they ask? Like I said, the enabling of that the VSM is seeing the VEM, that's already worth a couple points. So there will only be like 3 or 4 questions regarding the Nexus 1000V, nothing more.